Lisa Billingham from Midland Rocks. I'm sat here with Marc Malone in the Billibee Creative Studio, and we're going to have a chat about Torous, the forthcoming new single Sovereign Son that's due out on the 26th of January. So Marc, tell me about how you started in the music business.
Feels like a long time ago, but it wasn't actually that long ago, really. When I was about 16, I moved down to London to sort of go to a music college, do a course to sort of learn how to play guitar, but I already self-taught myself how to play guitar. And I didn't really work in a music college setting. Taking lessons and orders is not really my style, unfortunately. I wish I was more patient, but I'm just not. So I had to get out and get into the city and start playing, and I met lots of great session musicians, people who play with sort of Stevie Wonder, people who played with Sepultura, and I met loads of great musicians who sort of encouraged me to pursue it. They were really enthusiastic about my playing, and I did. And when I came up to Birmingham, I did some work sort of like in sort of tribal music. I did some sort of traditional Irish music and Celtic folk music and stuff like that. Workshops to get a bit of money, and all the way through to obviously Torous.
And who are your influences?
When I was growing up, my mum was a huge fan, so I was sort of raised on Pink Floyd, The Doors, Metallica particularly. 3 bands I remember a lot from my childhood, you know. So those are the sort of the bands that planted the seed of loving this sort of music. You know, sort of Dave Gilmour's guitar playing and James Hetfield's voice and Jim Morrison's sort of mystique. So that was sort of like the thing for me. And then when I got into my mid-teens, I got into bands like Tool and Godsmack, which for me were like my favourite bands. They were the ones that sort of, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to do this. So that and whiskey, obviously. Always.
So I've seen you several times over the last few years, on your own and with the band members, although Torous marks a definite push towards being a band, in the true sense. What was your thinking behind this?
To be honest, it's as a solo guy in this sort of music, it's quite difficult. I enjoyed the process of writing tunes. I enjoyed the process of being in the driver's seat, but it becomes quite difficult. People look at you differently when you're a solo artist in this genre. You know, if you're playing with you've got a bunch of bands on a list and you just see my name, people see it as like an egotistical thing, and it was never meant to be that. It was just because I never had a band, a solid band. But when we came together, our drummer Tom, our bass player GMT, and obviously myself, I just realised we had something really strong, something really special here, something that I really wanted to pursue, and I was willing to start all over again to do that. And you know, thank God that we did. And things have gone a lot better since we have. And it's sort of like the 3 of us against the world. You know, when there's 3 of you forming a band, it's a completely different thing to anything else that I've ever experienced.
But it's working out really well.
It is working out well, yeah, it is. A long way to go. We're still really new, we're still spring chickens really, but it's going well, in the right direction.
And the name Torous, is there a significance?
Yeah, without going into it in too much depth, because it's a long story, but it's like a mathematical sphere. It's like a sphere of energy that surrounds all living things. It's like a universal pattern. Anything that's got a heartbeat basically will have a torus, and anything that's alive will have a torus. So I use the idea because it connects everybody. Everybody can relate to it because everybody has one. And ancient sort of spiritual stuff, they talk about it being like an aura. So you know, like when you're sitting with someone, you feel a bit uneasy, or like something about this person. That's basically the torus. So it's something that relates to everybody.
Your music, whilst evidently becoming more robust over the years, still bases itself on a strong combination of Celtic hard rock and hard rock traditions, with the occasional cover thrown in for good measure. Will this continue to be the way forward for Torous?
Yeah, I think we'll actually pull on all those influences a lot more. With the new single particularly a lot, but I think it'll become more Celtic, I think it'll become more melodic, and I think it'll become more metal. I think all these elements will actually become more and more prominent. At the same time, we don't ever have a writing process. Whatever happens, happens. We're quite organic that way. We never sit down and go, right, I want to write this type of song. Torous is not that band. Torous is the band that goes, what comes out, comes out. You know, we don't write songs for radio. We don't even write songs for crowds, we write songs for us. Then for crowds, but definitely not for radio or for hits.
And going back to the occasional cover, being given the Torous sound, I have to ask, why?
Is the occasional cover the Jackson 5 one?
Yes.
Okay. To be honest, we play with a lot of great bands in this city. There's a lot of great bands on the circuit, a lot of great bands internationally that I know, big bands and stuff. When they come to doing a cover, they always seem to do like Zeppelin, AC/DC, Metallica, and that's great. we love those bands as much as everybody else. The thing is, for me, I'm like, well, what can Torous do to be a little bit different? If you're having a beer at the Flapper or having a beer at the 023 and you're hearing a band in the background, what is going to turn your head? What's going to be the thing that makes you go, oh, that's unusual?
Blame it on the boogie.
Blame it on the boogie is unusual. Heard it through the grapevine. So if you're doing a hard rock Marvin Gaye, hard rock Jackson 5, I think that's cool because it hasn't been done. Whether it worked, whether you like it or not, it's something different. And that's all we're doing it. But who knows what will happen, what songs we'll do next time.
So getting back to the real reason why you're here, the new single. Tell me all about it.
Well, firstly, I want to say that this is the best song we've done so far. We're really proud of this one. For a lot of reasons. I think, as I mentioned before, it draws on a lot of those different influences. It's heavier than some of the other stuff, yet it's more Celtic than some of the other stuff, yet it's more melodic than some of the other stuff. You know, it's a really great song. The lyrical content is really important for me. It's talking about taking your sort of personal power back. We give our power away to people all the time, don't we? Whether it's sort of peer pressure, political groups, or even bands, you know, so people put bands on such a pedestal that we can forget that actually we're important as well. So this song's more just about bringing that personal power back. And the musical side is awesome. We wrote this within about 2 hours, within a rehearsal session, 2 weeks before studio, and that's it, we decided to go ahead with it.
And Sovereign Son.
Sovereign Son.
Where did that name come from?
I think when it comes to taking that personal power back, it's about being like, you being sovereign as a person. You know, you don't have to adhere to other people's ways of thinking. You don't have to adhere to other people's ways of looking at things. You can be a sovereign person. You yourself can be individual, and that's really sort of what the song means.
The band has gained good exposure for an unsigned band on radio, especially across the pond in the US and Canada. Why do you think this is? And any advice for other bands looking to do the same?
Largely it's about networking. Like obviously in my old days, as we were talking about, obviously I met a lot of people, and it's about reaching out to people. People in the industry are not afraid of you reaching out to them. You've just got to make sure that you do it in the right way. With Torous in particular, I think what's worked for us is the quality of the sound, the recording. You know, back in the day when I used to do things, I never used to think that the recording was as important as it is, but if you don't have a good quality recording, nobody's going to play it. You know, so the most important thing really is having that good quality of recording. And then if it's a good song, people will pick it up, people will want to play it. So focus on the quality of the song, focus on the quality of the recording, and the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah, promo will come along as and when then, won't it?
Yeah, and I used to think of it the opposite way around. Promote, and do a bit of recording. And I was wrong, it's the other way around.
How's the gig diary looking?
Good, yeah. We can't mention all the gigs we've got, because we've got quite a lot of gigs lined up that haven't been concrete yet. That are looking really good, but we've got some great shows. I mean, obviously we've got the O2 Academy 3, 31st Jan. Going to be awesome. I played there a long time ago in my own thing, so before Torous, and I loved it. It's a great stage, great venue. Obviously we're playing with Hills Ovation. She's a really great promoter. She does a lot in the scene. So it's really cool to get back together with her, do the show. And we're going to play the new song live. We've got some really cool, new, interesting covers to do live as well. Not the ones that we mentioned, so it's going to be a really cool gig. And for the rest of the year, we've got we've got some London shows, we've got some festivals, and we've got some support slots as well, which will all be confirmed in due course.
So are there any particular concepts or ideas, lyrically or musically, that you draw on for writing your own songs?
Yeah, I think as a band, because we're all quite different. You've met all the band, and they're not necessarily into the same sort of things that I would read about, that I'm into. As a band, we sort of write about just sort of being yourself. That's what we represent as a band, really. It doesn't matter what your personality is, whatever. Just being yourself is important. As myself, anything can be spiritual stuff, can be political stuff. It can be just having a beer. It can be anything really that strikes a bit of sort of influence that day. Generally, I write about deeper things that I feel most people don't want to talk about, because it's quite hard to talk about some of the stuff that I'd sing about. But if you hear it in a song, it can relate to you a lot deeper than in a conversation. So I sort of use my music to get out things that I wouldn't necessarily talk about.
Yeah, more often it can make a little bit more sense, can't it?
I think so. Music is more powerful than words, so the words are great, but when you've actually got the music with it, that's when it really brings out a feeling, because again, you can say 100 words, but with playing 3 notes on a guitar, you can match those 1,000 words in feeling,
Yeah.
So having those two together is, I think, the best way to strike a feeling in somebody and hopefully help them.
The future of the band. Are there any plans for a full-blown album?
Obviously, in due course, yeah. We're still early days. I mean, we played our first show in April last year at the Flapper, where you guys obviously came out, and we've come a long, long way since then. So we've released obviously Sovereign Son, and then we will be working on an EP in the summer. So looking around May time, it will be released, which will be an actual body of work, which we're going to be putting out, which we're really excited about. We've got a lot of the songs written already, and I'm really excited about that. But obviously, you're just going to have to go to the website and wait for that to be released, find out more.
Well, Marc Malone, thank you very much for meeting up with Midland Rocks. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.